Every father faces it, the voice that says you're not enough. But what if healing that voice isn't just possible, but it's the most sacred work you'll ever do? Today, I'm sitting down with Ryland Engelhart, a devoted father, co-creator of Cafe Gratitude, and co-founder of the movement Kiss the Ground. We're going to explore the power of presence, the courage to build without needing to prove, and the rituals that shape not just your kids, but all the generations to follow. If you're not just building a business, but building a life, a rhythm, a legacy, this conversation is your blueprint. Let's get started.
I want to ask about your passion for farming, for the soil, for the earth, for what is natural and real, and how early did that show up in your life? Where do you first remember being alive because you put your hands in the earth or you touched something that ignited this, what is now, I know, a real passion of yours? Where did that begin?
Yeah, so it's definitely, the container of my childhood was on a 20-acre farm homestead in upstate New York. And my father and his brother married twin sisters.
Wow.
And shared a house and a bank account.
All of them.
All of them.
That's wild.
And, we had a beautiful vegetable garden outside and apple orchard, and we had a pond. And yeah, we had a barn with a hay loft. And yeah, much of my childhood was playing in the wilderness, playing in the woods, playing by the pond, running in bare feet on this wet, mushy path that I can still feel in my, after a rain, and where the car marks had, gone down the path and created little pockets for the water to gather, and running and having that mud squish between my toes. And then going by myself and just sitting on the dock at the pond, and feeling the wind on my face, feeling the sun, observing the sun sparkle off the water. Mm-hmm. So there was definitely a love and just an environment being totally engulfed in that as a child. And then, another aspect of it was that I always had this buoyancy and this optimism and this innocence for that, seeing the best in things. And I also really struggled through school and through education. I had a lot of learning disabilities, and I scored 800 on my SATs, and I didn't go to college because I felt inept or inadequate or somewhat like I just didn't have what it took. There was certain things that some people had, and I didn't have those. And so I, steered clear of education because I was afraid that I was inept there. And so that took me to trying to become a pro snowboarder. I left home at 18. I drove to the West Coast, and I wanted to do something that I was good at. And
you were already pretty good at that point.
I grew up snowboarding, and I was pretty good. I was pretty, for a small little East Coast Ithaca, New York kid. Yeah. I was pretty good on my Greek Peak. pull hits. I could knock out a 540.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah, no, and
I didn't know we shared this in common, by the way, like similar SAT, no college, snowboarding, yeah, so far we're tracking.
very cool. I love it. I didn't know that either. And so I find myself in San Francisco during the .com era, and I see a lot of young people making money and finding sort of purpose and success in the early .com era. This is probably 2009 in San Francisco, and I'm working at a .com, but I'm the maintenance guy, filling up the snack corral or kitchen with Crystal Geyser sodas and pretzels with peanut butter in them from Costco, and yeah, just sort of reeling with this sort of dichotomy of feeling this huge sense of I can change the world. There's a buoyancy and an optimism and seeing the world of possibility, but then also having this burden or insecurity of being inept and afraid and not being that I'm not successful and I don't know where I'm going and what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so,
real quick, where did that start? By the way, this concern, and I don't want to project the full story, but right there, you've expressed this concern of like, do you have what it takes? And maybe that was just in a specific path, like just with school. And I'm curious a little bit about like that feeling and where that started and how many years that was there. Because I've always experienced you. I mean, I know you as an adult, and the last number of years, I've seen you like really excel and what looks like just hit home run after home run after home run in your life. Choose your path and do it with confidence. And I'm always impressed with the essence of you and who you are and how you show up in conversation, very certain of yourself and comfortable with the truth for yourself and doing big projects and movies. So take me back a little bit and tell me like this part of you, what did that look and feel like? How long did that exist? And maybe how you broke out of that.
Yeah. So I was a Waldorf school kid.
Yeah, you are? Okay, cool. Both of my boys are in Waldorf right now.
Which I love. Yeah. And that also set the container for my love and affinity with gnomes and fairies and, the entities of the earth and the sort of magic of creation. But when I went from Waldorf to public school, there was a transition that was, I showed up and I was very behind.
Yeah.
And
that makes sense.
And I ultimately, to survive, found myself in the resource room, not because I got assigned to be there, but it was just a place that I know I could go get the help that I needed. And so ultimately was the place that I got the help that I needed to. But I would say on the other side of it, where I had to, grow or stretch in because there was this block when it came to reading and writing and arithmetic and, the general standard educational things that I felt somehow there was a block with. I had to really lean into the human relationships with my teachers to actually, thrive, survive, make it by really being able to be at the most human relational level, connected, loved, and important. And so I would say that was sort of through Waldorf into high school, and then to bringing me to redladder.com, which was the .com I was working at in San Francisco. And this is where, there was a couple breakthroughs. One was I took a Greyhound bus down to New York City to do something called the Landmark Forum.
Oh yeah, I know that. Yeah.
On the 14th floor of the World Trade Tower.
Wow.
The summer after high school. And I did that because, and it's actually interesting that this story is coming up authentically or just in the thread of the conversation, because in the preparation for this was to bring a photo of someone and be prepared to, and actually my dear friend, one of my best high school friends, Shahid DiDomenico, who is no longer with us, he passed away. But he had invited me to go down for his evening session of the Landmark Forum in New York City. And so I ended up taking a Greyhound bus, or actually we drove down for the evening session. I ended up taking a Greyhound bus to when I did the Landmark Forum. But that was a profound breakthrough in that I really, really saw for the first time this cross-section of humanity that looked every different kind of way, every different age, every different color and creed, and that we're all just afraid and worried people are going to find out about our insecurities, our insufficiencies, our fears, our failures. And I remember being 19 years old and just being so blown away by the Wall Street banker to, the young kid from the South Bronx to the soccer mom. And there was a degree of transparency and realness that emerged that just completely awakened me. Wow, everyone is feeling the same way. And that there's permission to be okay with our burdens and our insecurities that we carry. Everyone carries them, and we actually seeing and experiencing the liberation from being okay with that and being able to name that and call that and stand in those fears and insecurities and finding liberation for others in my ability to name them and articulate them, and vice versa, and seeing the freedom emerge when we're able to really drop the waterline with each other. And so,
how old were you at that point for Landmark?
I was 18.
You're 18.
18.
Sounds like a big moment.
It was, a huge moment. And I ended up doing a decade more of Landmark education training. I didn't go to college, but I did a decade of...
some would argue a better experience.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I say that lovingly, of course, but I think there's many ways to get educated, and I've stepped into that world, and whether somebody likes it or doesn't like it, it is an exploration and a learning, and I think it's a beautiful process, that and many others. But wonderful, man. Yeah.
It's a curriculum. It's an education that has foibles and shortcomings, just like everything else in this world.
Yep.
And I've seen it give so much freedom and transformation and breakthroughs for human beings over multiple decades.
Yeah. All of those, you either love them or you don't. The landmarks, the Tony Robbins stuff, the whatever it is, if it's these alternative educations, if they push buttons, some people walk away saying, never again, that's the worst thing ever. And other people it changed their life. And, they rave about it decades later. So very cool, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can you go back for a minute into your childhood? If there's anything there, by the way, I don't want to cut you off. If there was more to that story.
No, then there's a piece that goes right after this that goes back to the original question, which is nature, and where did I become devoted to earth stewardship, healing, growth, transformation. And so there's something next to share in timeline, but I want to go back. I'm open to going back before I go forward. Yeah.
We'll bookmark that and come back. Okay, cool. So the question about your childhood, just one, maybe more, but one question for sure is something that your dad did that you felt was like the best thing a dad could do that really supported you. It might have been a story, a moment, a comment, whatever it is. Just, can you share something that was real from your childhood that, that was so special to you that your dad did that maybe other dads could model in their own fatherhood journey now because it worked for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So
you're a driven man, you lead at work, you hustle to provide, but deep down, you know that success at home matters most. The question is, are you leading there with the same clarity and purpose? At Front Row Dads, we totally get it. Juggling business and family is not easy, and that's why we created FRD Engage, a 5-week experience designed for men like you, fathers, husbands, leaders who refuse to settle. This is more than a course. It's a live online journey with real dads, real conversations, and real change. You'll walk away with a clear path to deeper connection with your wife and kids, tools to align your business with your family values, daily habits that create lasting change, clarity and confidence to lead your family with purpose. You don't need to figure this out alone. You'll join a brotherhood of men raising the bar together. Don't wait for a wake-up call, because if you're not leading at home, who is? Go now to frontrowdads.com to learn more. That's frontrowdads.com to learn more. Join us and step fully into the role that only you can play.
Yeah, the thing that's there to share is, and it's not early childhood, but it's adolescence. Before, it was probably when I was 20.
Okay, cool.
My dad and mom got divorced. My mom left my dad for another woman, and my dad was completely crushed. And at the time, he was living in San Francisco. And he, one day I came up to the rooftop of the building that we were living in San Francisco, and we had one of those old school, like cream colored Bose CD players. And I went up on the rooftop, and we loved Krishna Das. And there was this song called the Maha Meltdown. And basically I came up there and I found him crying, and we ended up just dancing to this beautiful music, and then sat down, and basically he said, "Ryland, I want you to know that you already have my love. That you don't need to do anything else with your life to get my love. You've got it. You are enough in my eyes. You can be a couch surfing snowboard bum, or be whatever it might be. You're enough. You've got my love. You don't need to try or do anything else to get my love. I'm taking you off the hook." And yeah, that was an amazing, amazing moment, and a moment that created the conditions of what is probably the most extraordinary relationship in my life, is my relationship with my father.
Is he alive today?
He's alive today. Yeah.
How's your relationship now?
Amazing. Amazing.
Do you guys talk often? And
It's interesting. He talks to my sister a lot more than he talks to me. And I, sometimes get triggered by that and be like, hey. But I actually just went and saw him in Idaho. And he invited me to build a little cottage on his land in northern Idaho. And we picked out a spot for it. And over the next 2 or 3 summers, I'm going to go up there for 2 to 3, for either between a month and 2 months, and we're going to build the home together.
Why would you leave Austin in the summer? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And so he just called me the other day, and he's a little stoic. He's not so, he's not quite as touchy-feely and, emotional as I am, but he called me on FaceTime, and he was putting up a wood fencing to basically delineate our piece of land to build the home.
That's cool.
And so, yeah, that as far as a thing that I'm looking forward to is, spending the next couple years being able to build a home for my kids, for us.
That's awesome.
On their land in Idaho together, and, doing that project together, and, allowing that project to create a relationship of.
Have you done that before? Have you built a house? Do you have that level of construction experience, or will this be new for you?
It'll be new for me.
Yeah.
We just built a new home in Hill Country in Texas at Sovereignty Ranch. And we had a construction, I was pretty hands off as far as the construction of that home goes, but they've just left us a concrete pad for the well that we dug. Mm-hmm. And they say, you need to build a well house. And they say, we can do it, but it'll be probably, $6,000 to $10,000. And I was like, I can definitely build a well house. And so, I ended up building the well house, and it came out pretty good. So I'm pretty good at putting things together, and I'm pretty crafty with my hands, pretty good at fixing things, understanding how things work. And so I like the process of carpentry. Yeah. I love the process of building. I actually love manual labor. I love creating with my hands. There's something so satisfying and fulfilling in a life where much of it is communication and Zoom and
yes.
One of my sanctuaries and one of my therapies, at this point in life, is going out into my woods with a chainsaw and, clearing forest, or I'm actually building. I'm really excited. I've just bought a brand new chainsaw, and I'm sculpting this 100, maybe 200-year-old oak tree stump that have these gorgeous roots.
Making like a totem pole or something?
I'm building, originally I was going to create this vessel and inscribe, "May we all be vessels for the divine to pour through." But then I realized that the vessel that the divine pours through is through the heart. And that's the vessel that we are sort of, in my experience, the place that we commune with the creation, or with Creator. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm sculpting this beautiful heart. And again, I've never done it before. It's just, it's sort of like, all right, chainsaw, and there's an aspect of that which is I'd say part of my success is this buoyancy and willingness to try new things and be a fool in the exploration, and in turn throwing myself in, I get to see, oh wow, this is actually not that, or this is doable, or this is feasible. Yeah. This can actually work. So, so I'm. Don't have a ton of experience, but it's something I love to do, and I'm excited to learn.
I can see it in your face, man. I can feel it in your spirit. That's cool. And, I'm always looking for through lines, on this show. Nearly 500 interviews now with epic dads and businessmen and incredible humans. And I think that one of them is, if we want to connect with other people, shared projects. Like if there's a principle of fatherhood that is universal and have an impact with kids of any age, and you can do it literally with your youngest kids, you can do it with adult kids. It's just something that every father might benefit from holding in their focus is, what project can I do with my kids this year? Right? So it's whether it's building a house, again, you're an adult with children, building a house with your dad, with grandpa, like that's cool. My dad, when we were younger, we would go to the summers, sometimes take our summers in Shell Lake, Wisconsin, at this lake that he grew up on, that he'd take us to when we were kids. And every time we went to this lake, there was a project that he wanted to do. It was either, power washing the stone walkway from one house to another, or repainting this like double person swing that was like a standalone swing. And one time he took it all apart, replaced some rotten wood and painted it. And it was every summer he had a project. But I remember those very well because you get a chance to show your kids or work together on restoring something. You get a chance to clean something. And Roman family principle that I learned from my dad that I say to my kids all the time is, leave everything better than you found it, which I think connects us too in our missions of regeneration and growth and earth stewardship, if you will. But it's my dad always, I remember him saying to me, it's not how much you have, it's how you take care of what you have. That was another thing my dad would say a lot. And I really think these projects are so cool because they can be a simple project, right? And then they could be big projects. Like one of my buddies in Front Row Dads, he's building a treehouse with his kids. And I think, what a cool project.
Absolutely.
Where you both can learn. And it doesn't have to make the treehouse show on Netflix. It's like, it just could be a couple planks in a tree with a tarp over it. Could be awesome,
Totally.
It's just time together, grab a hammer and nail and a saw and see what we can co-create. I think that's really beautiful.
So beautiful. And specifically, we had a treehouse in our front yard where I grew up, and so much of my childhood memories and experiences were in and out of that treehouse.
Yeah. And
I actually don't recall necessarily being part of the construction of it, because I think I was, but it's definitely something that I want to do with Rumi, who's my oldest son. And
how old now?
6.
Yeah,
he turned 7 in June.
Perfect age.
Ocean,
who's now 10, is such a builder. Like he loves to stack anything. Like from a very young age, he would be putting blocks together, magna tiles, building these epic creations. So this is something we're going to do for sure. Yeah. We've got a treehouse started, and now we're going to add to it. Yeah. It's going to be really cool.
It started off as a platform with a ladder.
Basically that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Platform with a ladder. It's only like 3 feet off the ground. So again, you might have this vision which would prevent a dad from stopping. It needs to be this big, this high. Sometimes our parameters and expectations steal away our creativity and the fun of just like stack a couple boards, start with 2 feet off the ground. Something you can stand on, with 2 steps. It's like a great place. Then build on top of that. So one last question about your childhood, and then I want to move on to your life as a dad, was there any moment that you can recall with, of course, being respectful to your dad? I never want to throw fathers under the bus or, talk about them in ways that are not healthy, but being, looking back, every father's made mistakes. And do you recall moments or a moment where your dad hurt you somehow, directly, indirectly, like he meant to, he didn't mean to, he yelled at you, he said something and you didn't think you overheard it, you heard it, but you did. However it happened, was there a painful moment that you then had to repair with him, that he came to you and repaired, or you went to him for repair? But I think this is a big part of fatherhood, which is why I bring it up, because I've had plenty as a father, and I've had them with my dad, and there have been many painful moments. Some that I remember and he doesn't, and some he thinks that were painful for me that I don't even remember. We've talked about it now as adults. Can you recall anything like that?
Yeah, it's I mean, one, I just have to give thanks that it's not, there's actually not there's not one, or at least a big one, that I'm present.
Still working out in therapy.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
for that, I'm just wanting to receive the blessing and gratitude and say thank you for, who he was for me as a child.
Yeah.
But
Ryland, move this a little closer to you, by the way. Or just pull it back to you if you want. Yeah, that's
but yeah, I think the dance where me and my dad still get triggered, where I still get triggered, and it goes back to his father was an English professor, and he's also very book smart and a good writer. And so I would be sitting at our big dining room table working on a piece of writing, some kind of biography or essay, and I would do whatever I thought was supposed to be there, and then he would read it, and I would see his, not disdain, but there was a degree to which he was like, he would always, too much, unnecessary fluff, cut it down.
yes.
And so there was me stepping into a zone where I already had insecurities.
Right.
And then him, I think of that river runs through it sequence of the dad, grading the minister dad. I don't know if you saw that film, River Runs Through It.
No, maybe,
but not a referenceable. But anyways, just his expectation of me to be more a better writer, to get it, to follow his direction, to see what he's saying in clearer ways, and be able to take that coaching. And we do it to this day. I'll call him, I'm going to give a talk, and he's just like, I'll share, and it's vulnerable to share what I'm going to say, because I'm already with this expectation of, or this wound of the past, and I can just see him kind of like, and he does a decent job of making it constructive. But early on, there was a level of a level of disappointment, and a level of, I just say disappointment based on how I was performing in my academics, that I would have to sort of go before him again and again, and feel his discontent, and feel his, and so that was definitely, I would say, one wound of my insufficiency, insecurity, that I can't make it in academics, I can't make it in the real world, or I can't play with the big boys.
Right.
And part of that conversation on the rooftop in San Francisco was definitely an amends to that, at a more broad, it wasn't specific to that, but just, that was one micro example of in childhood where, and I think that this is the paradigm that fathers and sons dance inside of fathers want their kids to be great, and they want them to be better than they are. and they see where they're maybe not, or it's not expressing.
Yes.
And their disappointment is expressed in anger, in shame, in embarrassment, in frustration, and yeah, I think it oftentimes goes unaddressed, and I think it oftentimes results in a lifelong of what that man is aspiring to become, is to prove his father wrong, or to make his father proud, depending on the
Totally understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, man. I can relate to that also, that story, but with math. My dad was a math major. Like, he majored in it, and they just had this vision of him sitting at the table when I'm 10 or 12 or whatever it is, and being so frustrated that I wasn't getting this thing. And I remember that. And I remember my mom kind of coming to my rescue and being like, let's just take a little breather. Because my dad's like, it's 8 + 10. How are we not getting this? And I think I'm not getting it because I'm actually panicking. So if I was calm, I probably would have got it.
Yes.
And he could not understand how I wasn't getting it, but my system was freezing. And and we've since talked about that and repaired that. And he's apologized, for intensity that maybe hurt me, where he was just, of course, wanting me to be great. And I can see that now, but that was a scar that definitely showed up for us. And then I did the same thing to Ocean, not so long ago. Like, I was like, I'm never going to do that to my kids. And then I repeated it. I thought he was joking with me, like playing with me, that he wasn't getting it. And I was getting upset with him. And I was like, holy, I'm repeating the entire pattern, just in my own unique way, all over again.
Totally.
And I swore I wouldn't do it. And I think a lot of dads can relate to that, swearing you'll never do something and then end up doing it. And I think there's a beautiful compassion for your father when that happens. And,
totally.
which is kind of cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, it's wild how we think. Yeah, it's wild. I remember thinking, why, and even seeing other parents before I had kids, seeing them flip out on their kids, and being like, man, but why are they making such a big deal out of this? And then, I consider myself very chill, very,
I consider
calm.
you the same.
And I it's amazing how triggered and
you got activated
out. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And then there's the whole idea of tolerance. We don't want, there's, what we tolerate persists. And so there's, which I think is a very interesting thing, because I grew up in an alternative community school, Waldorf school, very liberal ideas, no sort of religious or church context of spirituality, very kind of loose ideas of spirituality. And it's interesting. And for much of my life, I thought sort of this very loose, no edges, no guardrails philosophy of bringing people into the world, raising, was better, was absolutely better. And yeah, it's interesting as you get older. It's interesting as you get older, you get more. I've gotten more conservative in my whole world view.
It's a pattern I see.
Yeah, that's definitely a pattern I see. But what I'm really grateful for, and this was something I was thinking about on my way here, as far as a principle of fatherhood that I saw exemplified in my father, and and see I am continuing to exemplify is the idea of complaining and not complaining.
Tell me more.
Just life comes at us in the way that life comes at us, and being able to receive and be okay with, embrace, be flexible, open, receive life as it is, and make the best of it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I love that Maya Angelou quote, which says, change the things you can, change your attitude about the things you can't.
Yes.
And yeah, there's this opportunity to, and seeing this in my dad, this opportunity of being buoyant and being flexible and being committed to things and not spending a lot of time in the complaint or the disappointment or the talking about how it won't work, but really just living an example of like, it's possible. And I think that maybe is, my greatest superpower is really just the buoyancy and the optimism of my consciousness that allows me to be flexible inside of a changing landscape, a changing world, to see the opportunity to not get stopped and take action. And I can see, my father demonstrated that in a really amazing way. They built a clothing manufacturing business from selling clothes that my mom was making in the sewing room in our house and bringing them to the farmer's market, to going and making 50 trips to Lithuania and setting up manufacturing, harvesting of flax, milling of linen, sewing garments, and dealing with Lithuanian mafia and doing it with a spiritual intention of love and a spiritual intention of oneness. And so, yeah, I mean, we didn't get into this, but my folks were very, very deep into spiritual work for most of my childhood. They had a spiritual teacher. It was this woman named Jan Williams, and she really was, her whole philosophy was that your life is a picture of your mind. And your thoughts, speech, beliefs, actions, and attitudes create your experience.
I buy that.
And we get to choose who we're being in life.
Yeah.
And that is always a choice. We can change our mind about anything. And yeah, sometimes it's hard to change your mind. Sometimes you can't change your mind. But the option and the sort of the foundation is we can change our mind about our circumstances to create a pathway of being empowered and inspired and giving one buoyancy.
Let's talk about how you as a dad address this complaining thing, idea. You said that was a principle you carried forward. And so paint the picture for me. Your 6-year-old's complaining. I'm guessing it's happened. guessing you could pull one example maybe of when he did it. But if you can think of a specific time, or maybe like how you generally speak about it. So, your child complains. How do you address that? What does it sound like? Like literally, tell me what you would say, how you would say it. Because again, I think these very specific examples, I can't tell you how many times, like your words, your philosophy becomes the tool that somebody else uses.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the big purposes of this community that we're creating is, can I get these different vantage points? Because maybe I've gone through it and now I can have a different path, or maybe I will go through it one day and I'll have the tool ready. I'll have the voice in my head of what I can say. Not to put all the pressure on you on giving us the key to the kingdom, but tell me how you do it.
No, it's funny when you said, I was kind of like, I'm trapped. Do I do that? Because I would say that off the cuff, where it shows up, because my son does complain, and it actually, it gets my goat because my practice and, I have a pride in that there's actually, to be a good man, a good father, is to not complain.
Yeah, especially like you're my son, this is our family, and this is how we act, and you're going against it. It feels like easily you're wrong. You can create a you're wrong energy or reactive energy to that.
Totally. And
maybe it arguably is wrong, or maybe it's just that's the path or that's where they are. But anyway, talk to me.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's every day, right? It's about what we eat.
Yep.
We live on a...
Everybody's going to feel great about this right now.
We live on a regenerative farm. We have the best food on the planet. And my son only eats pasta with butter and nutritional yeast. Will not eat vegetables, literally will cry and whine. And turn
does it drive you crazy?
It drives me crazy.
Dude, my wife too, man. My wife too.
It drives me crazy. And then my wife is very, very committed to a healthy, full diet. She wants protein before sugar, protein before carbohydrates for better absorption, not spiking the blood sugar.
Yeah.
And so we have this container of all this great food, and we're pretty accommodating. And then it's like, okay, you have to try the new food that we're eating tonight. You can eat the thing that you're going to eat, but you have to try at least the thing we're eating.
Yeah.
And it's oftentimes tears.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know that I have a teaching moment about my great approach to this, in the realm of complaining or I don't want to. But I would say that here's okay. There is something that I think is worthy and sweet. And that simply is respect my request, respect that to try this food. You don't have to eat it, but respect that it's not bad for you. Respect that to try it. And if he tries it, spits it out, cries, ultimately what I leave him with is that I love you and I want you to have a great life.
Yeah.
Like ultimately there's moments of the tension and there's moments of the push and pull and there's demand and there's you have to. Yeah. And I think where there becomes a void and a break in the relationship is that we don't want them to think that the behavior's okay, so we start taking our love away.
Right. Yeah.
We start withdrawing our love in the next scene, in the next sequence, because they just acted out and that's not okay. And I need to let them know I'm going to withhold my love. I'm going to not be kind or sweet or let them know that I love them and that everything coming out of my mouth is I love you and I want your life to be great. It's really that's a distinction. So there's the request, and there's the demand, and there's the saying you have to do this, and there's the communication during and after that. Hey, everything I'm doing is because I love you and I want your life to work out.
Yeah,
I want you to be great.
totally.
I want you to be expansive and not contractive. There's so much. I want you to be curious and available to all that there is in the world.
Yeah.
And if you only eat certain amounts of food, then you're going to only try certain amounts of experiences, interact with certain kinds of people. I want you to have an expansive, amazing life.
Yeah.
And so everything that I'm doing is really because I love you and I want your life to be great.
Yeah, big time. Man, I can relate to this so much because my oldest is 15. And since he was a baby, he ate everything. And Tatiana is an incredible cook and values health at the highest level. I mean, she was blending like liver and, raw milk and all the things. I think he was
Weston A. Price.
Dude, 100%. Yes, dude. Like his baby milk, if you will, was like, it's a Weston Price recipe for sure. She was studying that. She went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition in New York City. And like from baby, Tiger was like, ate everything, literally everything. Even when he was young, we'd say, what do you want for your birthday lunch? And he could literally have anything. And he'd be like, I want salmon and spinach and potatoes. That's what he would say. We're like, we dialed in the food thing. Any parent that wants advice, come see us. We got to figure it out. We'll tell you how it's all done. And then, dude, Ocean comes along. He's 5 years younger than Tiger. And has literally given Tatiana the hardest time since being a baby. I don't like this. I don't want this. I'm not going to eat that. It just drove Tatiana nuts. And it drove me. She was more in charge of the food. She kind of took that on and owned that. And I would offer opinions and thoughts occasionally. And I'm getting more involved now at an older age. But it's been tough. And I think the thing that I want to say to all the dads listening to this, or moms, because we have a segment of moms that listen to this show too. But one is, I think that all your kids are going to be different. And just because one way worked with one kid, it might not work with another. So I'm saying that out of compassion for the challenge that parents will face. Also, just because you value it as a parent does not mean that your kids are going to value it, right? Here you are. Like your world has been healthy food. Like you said, regenerative farm. It doesn't just automatically show up in a child that lives in your home. Even with people that I know that have five kids, like they're all different. They all grew up in the same home with the same parents, and and yet they're all radically different. But also watching other dads and how they approach things, I think can be really helpful, like we talked about. And my buddy John Berghoff, I'll never forget, I was at his house. This is 10 years ago. You know him. We're friends.
Love John.
Right? Love John. He'll be fired up about this conversation, I know. And I was in John's kitchen in Hudson, Ohio, and I was watching him with his oldest son, Ace, who's a very similar age to Tiger. And he looked at Ace and he goes, Ace, if you eat this, it will make you fast. If you eat this, it will make you slow. And I was like, genius, like so good.
Yes.
Eat this, it makes you fast. Eat this, it makes you slow. And I can't tell you how many times I've said that to my boys where I'm like, that builds muscle. This takes it away. This makes you smart. This will make you slow. This will make, I just try to keep it very simple where I point to one food.
Yep.
Right. This will feel good today and hurt you tomorrow. Mm-hmm. This will hurt today, maybe because you don't like the taste of it.
Yeah.
And it will help you tomorrow. And I keep repeating these simple phrases. And sometimes it's taken a while to sink in. I feel like they're never getting the message. But eventually, even with Ocean, like he would come to me, can I have this gum, this candy, whatever? And I'd say, all right, flip it over. Read to me the ingredients. And he would do this, right? Come to me, can I have this? Flip it over, read to me the ingredients. Now, after years of doing this same thing every single time, which is hundreds and hundreds of no, you can't have it, and here's why. Yeah. Because of that ingredient, he will come to me, he will flip it over in front of me, and I'll start reading it, and he's like, blue 40, or, whatever, and he knows if it's got any type of dye, right, or food coloring, I'm not going to let him get it. That's it. He goes and he looks at me and he puts it away. And like, it does eventually take hold, maybe. I'm not saying it will 100%, but my call to all the dads is to be persistent, to be consistent. It may not happen immediately. It might not happen at the same pace for all your kids. It might not ever happen, but often it sticks eventually. I think people come back to center. They remember what their parents will say, even if they rebel against it initially.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a wild thing, man. I'm so glad we talked about that. It's such a big piece of our life with ocean. So yeah.
Remind me, you have...
I have two.
You have two.
I have two. Tiger is 15 and Ocean is 10. Yeah. So 2 boys.
2 boys, which I have 2 boys too.
Yeah, that's right.
6 and 2.
It's awesome,
Rumi
man.
and Phoenix.
Yeah, so great. Tiger, Ocean, Rumi, and Phoenix. We got to get these kids together. We had a bookmark that was right after Landmark, and we said we wanted to come back to it. Did we touch on that?
No,
or can we touch on that?
Yeah. Yeah. So this goes back to sort of the calling with Kiss the Ground, the calling of...
Which, give real quick context to that for anybody who...
Yeah. So Kiss the Ground is a nonprofit and a film that really has been at the forefront of educating and advocating for regenerative agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
That we can, like a new paradigm of perspective, we can heal, restore, regenerate land while we produce food.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, and again, that was, some years later, but when I kind of had that discovery. But I mean, I said this earlier, I've always somehow thought I was going to be part of a movement to change the world. That was just like, again, it sounds so fine, but
I love it.
I've always just felt compelled to movements that were for, and you kind of articulated this, for growth, for love, for healing, for restoration. And for most of my life, and where one of the sort of awakening moments of where that came from was being a little lost, confused, 19 years old, and my parents have moved to San Francisco from upstate New York, and they invite me to the Marin Headlands to do something called ayahuasca. And I'm 19 years old. They tell me, yeah, we're going to drink this tea, and it's a way to experience a direct connection with God, with the creation, with Mother Earth. And I was at a moment where I was, working at the .com, was kind of confused, lost. And so we drink this medicine, and it's about an hour of like feeling this experience of my body, my consciousness kind of being taken over, and my resistance, my ego resisting this internal sort of surge of shift in perspective, out of body experience, and, to where it feels like you're going to die almost. And then there was this moment of surrendering and getting on my knees and feeling this connection to this presence, this mother, this undeniable mother presence of divinity, that the only way you could describe it is, oh my God, oh my God. And feeling this umbilical cord of energy that felt like all the vibrational tones and vibrations and just the pulse of life itself being this umbilical cord to my heart, and then this transmission of communication communicating to me not to chase technology, not to feel like I needed to go into the .com world, but actually, and seeing that sort of future as dystopian and not something I wanted, and that my calling was, and there was a specific ask to serve her and to protect her. And I just wept in this moment with this calling, this connection, this feeling of clarity. And I didn't know necessarily what I was going to do with that, but there was this spiritual initiation of devotion and inner calling to be a protector and a steward for Mother Earth.
Wow. And this is 19.
This is at 19.
This is incredible. And your parents initiated this.
Yeah.
Man, I love it.
Yeah. And my mom now facilitates. She's a facilitator for that medicine.
Yeah.
In Hawaii. And I've drank it a few other times throughout the last 25 years. And it's definitely been one of the greatest teachers of my life.
Yeah.
But that moment and that sort of promise and that declaration of commitment, there's things that we perceive on sort of an intellectual and sort of surface level.
Mm-hmm.
There's a level of my life being guided by that deeper principle that I don't even necessarily am not even conscious of, but it's just it's just the direction of my life. It's the way that my life has gone.
Makes tons of sense.
And I mean, at first it was working with Cafe Gratitude and what we called that was where we first met in San Diego. And this idea of awakening love, awakening gratitude through hand-to-hand service of feeding people while inviting them into, I've had this thought that we can find God in gratitude.
I love that. Yeah.
Like when we're truly feeling filled, we are, when we're grateful, is we're present to that which has already been given, and we are fulfilled in that experience, and that is a divine experience. That is a full experience. And so this idea that Cafe Gratitude was about, feeding people healthy food, but it was more about awakening people to an experience of love, connection, and gratitude as our ministry, and again, that was also deeply facilitated by these going back into these expanded states of consciousness, doing medicine and feeling like, oh, wow, the whole purpose of life is to be a presence of love. Like, that's what we're up to. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And
dude, yeah. And that came through the medicine. That came through that work. That's where the original channel was opened for you.
That was where the original channel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
beautiful.
And even in the early days of Cafe Gratitude, we used that medicine to reignite our awakening of this connection, this source energy, this love, this unconditional love, and wanting to touch that high wire such that we could be a conduit for others to experience it in our restaurants.
Yeah. I want to make a comment, first of all, to the point that your parents had an initiation process, if you will. This is the path they chose. It's not going to be the path for everybody.
Totally, yeah.
Might be the path for somebody. But the principle I want to make a point of, which is one, initiation is so important. Ritual and ceremony, I think, is so important. However you find that, through your religion, through something that has nothing to do with religion. It's a tradition that you do at your home with every kid at 16, at 18, whatever. But really think through, what can we do to call someone into a new era of their life? Because I think that as a society, we've lost a good bit of what at one point were some really cool traditions, and religion has hung on to some of that in a beautiful way.
Absolutely.
Right? Whether it be a bat mitzvah or something like that, that's a dedicated path to say, hey, this is a turning point in your life, or it can be, and we're calling you into a new version of yourself, and you get to leave behind this other version, or retire it, or just put it aside for a moment and welcome in a new part of you, whatever it is, however you speak about it. There's no right or wrong way, but just the principle I wanted to call to. Because sometimes people find front row dads and they're like, oh, Diane, I wish I would have found you guys when I had young kids, because now my kids are grown. And it's almost, they're making a statement like they think that their role of father is done.
Mm-hmm.
But here you are as a grown man with children, and your dad's like, let's build a house together, or you create whatever it was. But you're co-creating this amazing adventure together at this stage of your life.
Yeah.
The fatherhood journey is forever. It's like you're never done, right? And so that's what happens in our societies. We think we launch our kids and then it's gone. It's done. You're like, my hand's done, right? I hear that more than I hear my best work is yet to come. And I'm going to still study fatherhood. I'm going to still lean in. I'm still going to ask better questions. I'm still going to engage with my children. I'm just going to support them differently. I'm not spoon feeding them or changing their diapers, but I am supporting them in each phase of their life, because my role is always dad, and they only ever have one dad, if you will, So
yeah,
I wanted to call that out.
Yeah.
Really cool.
The initiation piece, I think, is really, really, really beautiful, and is definitely shaped my life.
Yeah.
As far as the initiations that my father invited me into and allowed me to see him in a very vulnerable state, and me in a vulnerable state, and going through those thresholds together.
Yeah.
It almost feels like I mean, at a very high level, it's prepared me for ushering him off the mortal coil and being there.
That's right. That's beautiful.
And so, yeah, I he took my brother, my stepbrother, my stepbrother, and me. Two stepbrothers and me to something called the New Warrior Training in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Probably when we were 20, I was 24. And it was 50 men in the woods, and it was scary. It was confronting. It was, but I got to see my dad in the middle of a circle being taunted, and, bringing up his traumas of being in a locker room and being bullied as a kid, and getting to see him get that vulnerable.
Wow. And
then me getting to, stand naked in a circle of men and share about my relationship to sexuality, and very, 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 but held in this container of scary is coming and you're loved, and we're walking through it together.
Yeah.
And again, this is not explicitly said. This is just the experience of, what I'm reflecting on. And even to, we went on a backpacking trip into the Los Padres National Forest and did a camp out, and made a meal, and then, ended up, taking some psilocybin mushrooms, and I got to, sit in this experience of feeling into that, this being out under the stars with my father, at this time it was my brother and my cousin, and expressing our devotion, our love, our being split open by the expansiveness of love and the creation, and really being, awed in gratitude, and seeing that is an initiation and an experience that, for some version of that, being out under the stars in front of a fire, sitting, having conversations that are not mundane, not normal, some very confronting, some that bring total elation. But I had that experience with my father, and to me it was right there. It was, oh my God, I can't wait to have this experience with my sons.
Yeah.
And being able to be completely splayed open, completely vulnerable, them seeing me, as, and us getting to dissolve into our love, affection, affinity, appreciation, gratitude for each other, and being alive.
I'd love to eat mushrooms with my mom and dad. I can't get them to do it yet, but I want to. Yeah, I would love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be so cool. Yeah.
So here again, here's a distinction that maybe someone could take on, but we've had this tradition called the family picnic.
Yeah.
So family picnic is code word for going out into somewhere in nature, setting up a nice, space, in away from everything, food, nice container, and then taking a little psilocybin and just,
is there a magic dose in that container that you think? Is it 0.5, 1? Like, do you keep it light, or are you blasting off with 4, 5, 6?
No, probably somewhere in between. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I see benefit to both.
Totally.
I see benefit to both.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that depending on the mix of people, how many people,
for sure.
But yeah, family, can't recommend enough family picnic.
Yeah. So cool.
At 44, probably had, 5 or 6 family picnics, and I can remember them all, and they're all, there's a depth of connection, vulnerability, and spaciousness for love with my parents and my siblings because of those experiences that I wouldn't have otherwise had.
Was 19 your first psychedelic experience?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so the family picnics came after that. Do you think that, based on your timeline, would you think that it'll be similar with your boys? You'll wait till they're 18, 19 to introduce them to something, or?
Actually, that's not true. 16 was my first family picnic with psilocybin. Okay. And then, so 19 was ayahuasca. So, I would say, between 16 and 18 would be probably, and it's all, I don't want to diagnose anything as a good idea, because I think there's, psychedelics are amazing. They've been some of the most amazing teachers for me and for my family, and depending on someone's, mental stability, resilience, if it can be a lot to process.
Yeah. It's important to say, I think, I'm speaking probably for both of us, but I will only speak for myself, and you can tell me if you agree, is like, these conversations, what we're talking about is not, I'm not making a recommendation to use psychedelics with your kids. It's not a recommendation.
Yes.
You and I both have benefited from psychedelics.
Yes.
I would think similarly that I would be excited to, at some point, have some ritual. And I would rather introduce Tiger to a world like that than have a stranger introduce him to that world, which he's likely going to find it anyway.
Absolutely.
Right? So I want to be the one to talk about it with him, at least. And then I do think that everybody needs to walk their own path. And the part that I think we're doubling down on in this is shared time. It's intentional space. It's a break from the norm. And that does not require psychedelics.
No.
It can just be you praying together at a family picnic, right?
Yes.
You kayaking down a river together and exploring life through nature. That's perfect.
Totally.
And so I know.
And allowing for that time and space in nature to dissolve the normal, the sort of mundane, and allowing for that space to drop into more vulnerable and deeper conversations,
Right.
and deeper questions, and revealing ourselves to our children, and asking them to open up to us in ways,
Right.
so that we can ultimately experience deeper connection, deeper trust, more love for each other.
Maybe the last question, probably the last question on your fatherhood. And then I want to get to mission, business, maybe the story of Cafe Gratitude, since we brought it up, and how the transition to the farm occurred, so I'd like to talk about the business element of that and your purpose through you, the man in the world, right? But maybe there's a quick story or an idea that you can share to close out the fatherhood piece, which is there a ritual or something you do with your kids right now that we haven't talked about, that when you do it, you're being a great dad? You're like, man, I'm so proud of myself for doing this, for saying this, for having this morning routine, this evening routine, this thing in our home that I can't promise it's going to be the best thing I ever did as a dad, but damn, it feels good right now. Do you have something like that?
Yeah. I would say a couple things. Holding hands around dinner and sharing our gratitude for whatever it might be that day. And there's just nothing that brings me into the present moment and into the fulfillment of family and the fulfillment of fatherhood, creating a circle and creating the invitation to give thanks and allowing the family to let it rip in gratitude. And then that, I would say that the other layer of that is praying before we go to bed. And this was inspired by my wife, who really wanted to make that a ritual, and it's become such an amazing process where we all were, at this point, sometimes we sleep in separate. I got the 6-year-old, she's with the 2-year-old breastfeeding, but sometimes we're all in the same bed. And we start off, Mother, Father, God, thank you for, and just open up to whatever wants to pour through. And to hear my 6-year-old son saying, dear God, please allow everyone to feel your love and to know that you're their children, and sing down a song that speaks to everyone's heart. And just hearing his creativity and intention for people to know they're loved and that they're cared for and that they belong and that God loves them is so rewarding, so fulfilling. And then I'd say, not really taking time. We take my ATV and we drive out to the mailbox, which is like probably a half mile out to the mailbox. And yesterday, he noticed these cherry blossoms, these flowers blooming, and because one of my things, I'm always noticing something beautiful, noticing the beauty and pointing it out. And then to see him, I didn't see the tree. And then he said, look at this beautiful cherry blossoms. And I pulled over and we cut some up and brought it back for Mom. But yeah, going into nature, spending quality time with him and being an observer of beauty and looking for beauty in the world, and then seeing him take that on and start to be an observer and a noticer and to call out that beauty that he sees is really sweet and fulfilling. And even, we were driving one day and he heard a bird and he goes, "What's that sound?" And we stopped and it was this very unique bird call. And it was just that he heard it, noticed it, wanted to stop and appreciate it and give it a little bit of time and awareness and gratitude.
I love seeing your emotion around that, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
thanks for opening up your heart so much.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation. Thanks for the space and the conversation. I appreciate it.
We don't live in the country. We live not far from downtown. And in the last, half mile of our drive, I'll often say to Tiger, tell me what you see that you've never seen driving home in the last half mile. And it's a really cool way to be a noticer and observe. And he would, after 3 years of living in this house, he'll see something and be like, holy cow, I've never seen that. We've driven this 1,000 times and I've never seen that. And it reminds me that I think one of our jobs as dad, at least I think so, is to help our kids develop awareness. If there was a skill, it would be what's around me. What can I take notice of? Right? I've driven past a tree before that bloomed every year until one of my buddies was like, look at that beautiful blooming tree. And I'm like, I've never seen that, never. Some things I don't want to see, like the fast food restaurants. I'm glad that I don't even know if somebody's like, where's a Wendy's? I'm like, I have no idea. I don't even pay attention. I'm grateful for that. But I want to see the things I want to see. And I want to notice budding flowers as we record this at Spring in Austin. And I want to catch that. I want to walk in the world in a way that I can spot beauty and call it out, and then my kids can start doing the same thing. So I really appreciate that share, and it's an anchor and a reminder to me. And that's a game you can always play. That also has nothing to do with whether they're 6, 16, or 66, right? It's keep noticing, calling it out, and being aware together.
Yeah, and I can't remember where I heard this, but I loved this sentiment or this articulation around gratitude, and that gratitude is about making the invisible visible. Because we always oftentimes hear we take so much for granted. And so, the game of making the invisible visible by speaking it out and noticing it, bringing our awareness to whether it's the raw milk or the things that are there every day, but still bringing appreciation to those things and re-edifying their value, their beauty, their contribution, and again, training ourselves and training our families to be in the awareness of seeing all that is contributing to our life and noticing it, and then giving voice to how it makes a difference for us, and allowing that to be the culture of of our family.
Yeah. Thank you, man, for sharing a little bit about your childhood and your role as father. I know that even in an hour and a half or whatever, we can't get to all of it. There's so many other questions I wanted to get into, and maybe at another time we'll keep exploring. You've got many years ahead of you. We'll have many more stories to talk about. So let's come back to that at a future point and check in and see how things are going.
Great.
Thanks for listening today, fellas. If you got value from this episode, I ask that you take 1 second right now and you share this with another dad in your life that you respect, that you know is committed to becoming a better man, family man, and businessman. And on that note, I want to honor you for choosing growth. Your family will thank you years from now for all the effort that you're putting in to learn the strategies so you can show up more fully for them today. Take care.